Hi, this is Steve Kaminsky at Banner Engineering, and today I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about the QS30EDVQ sensor. This is an expert diffuse mode sensor with a visible red beam within our QS30 family. Now, some of the things that make this sensor stand out in the crowd are things such as crosstalk avoidance and fluorescent light immunity. This sensor has the ability of living in today's world with the high frequency fluorescent lights, as well as in highly congested sensing areas. So that's one of the unique features right off the bat with this sensor. Now, you also have another feature where you can turn those elements off and have a very high speed sensor, something that will operate at 300 microseconds. Now, it's also a very useful diffuse style sensor in that it has ranges up to 55 inches in the normal mode, where you have the fluorescent light immunity turned on and also the crosstalk avoidance. If you want to go into high speed mode, it operates at 43 inches. So very long range as far as a nice diffuse style sensor. And as I mentioned earlier, it is a visible red beam, and you'll notice that our targets today for the examples are red in color. We do that specifically so you can see the high performance of the contrast capabilities of this type of sensor. So a couple things that we're going to talk about are primarily related to the teaching methods. There's a couple new teach methods that are out there with the various QS30 sensors, and the EDV includes those teach modes. And I'd like to step through the different teach modes that we have. The first one is going to be a static teach. Static teach is our typical one where we're going to show it one condition and then show it another. Now I'm going to use a remote input button on the sensor, so as my fingers don't get in the way and you don't see what's happening. So basically I'm going to hit my remote teach button, and I'm going to tell it, go ahead, start looking at your first condition, and I'm going to slide a second condition underneath and show it that. And after it's done that, it's representing with the 7 flashing, the 7 LED flashing, that is saying this is your contrast level difference that we saw in the application. Now as I slide back and forth, you'll see simple basic operation, a little bit more reflected light, actually a lot less reflected light. And that's a simple operation of a static 2-point teach. Now there's also dynamic teach available on this. In dynamic teach, I'm simply going to hold down the remote teach button for a series of 2 seconds. It's going to go into teach mode. I'm going to show it both conditions back and forth, and we'll see what happens there. So we'll push it down for 2 seconds. The sensor goes into teach mode, and I'm going to show it the 2 different conditions that it may see in the typical application. I release the remote teach, and it learns those. It gives us a value, a flashing value there of 8, which represents the contrast values the sensor saw. And now we have a similar situation where we have our output is off with the brighter and on with the darker. And you can see good contrast variation once again. Now the next teach method is one that's going to establish a threshold, or a threshold value, and then establish a window around that threshold. As an example, I'll teach it this color right here, and I'm going to basically put the sensor in teach mode, then show it the same condition twice. And by doing that, it establishes a threshold value around that. So there's our threshold value, and now the sensor is going ahead and saying anything different than that color right there, and my output will turn off. And that is our simple approach to doing what we call a single point window set. Now there's 2 other types of teach methods available here. There's also the single point light set and single point dark set. I'll demonstrate the single point light set here next, where anything brighter than this color will keep the sensor output energized or in the same state. Anything darker and the output will change state. So what I'll do here is I'm going to teach it. So I'm going to put it in teach mode. I'm going to push the remote teach button 4 times. And then you'll see the upper 4 LEDs are lit up, saying it's going to be light, or it's in light teach, and I really don't care if it gets brighter. So here's the color we taught it. As I show it lighter conditions, you see the bar graph going up to represent lighter conditions, but the output is staying on. And as soon as I go darker, the output turns off. So anything darker than this value right here, we'll go ahead and turn the output off. Very simple approach if your material may vary a little bit and get brighter through your process. Now we'll do the same thing, but set up as dark teach. Now I'll go ahead and I'll teach it on that same color. Put the sensor in teach mode. I'm going to push the button 5 times. And by doing this, you'll see lights up the bottom 4 representing dark teach. And now when I go ahead and show it this color or darker, the output stays in the same state. Show it anything brighter and the output changes state. So those are our 5 teach methods with this. Now once you have these values taught, you can go ahead and adjust those very quickly, and that can be simply done right through the push button or the remote teach. And this can be used for things such as adjusting your threshold values. You can also use it for changing the operation, light operate, dark operate, turning on the high speed, or also putting on the timing function. And I'll show you how we do that real quick. Just double pulse the static button if you're, both buttons if you're pushing the back of the sensor, or double pulse the remote teach. And you'll see he's going to tell us he's right now set up his light operate with an off delay, and also he has set in high speed. To change that, I simply push the button, and he'll change. Now he's in dark operate, timing function, and high speed. Push it one more time as an example, and he's just simple light operate, no timing, and he has the fluorescent light immunity and the crosstalk avoidance enabled. And to lock in this position, we're simply going to hold the button down for 2 seconds, and you'll see he goes right into run mode. So that's a basic once over on the QS30EDV. If you have any questions, please feel free to call Banner Engineering. Thanks much.